Hello everyone, Steam Tech here with a sort of DCC tutorial slash I was doing it anyway so I may as well film it kind of video. So today, well depending on how many days it takes me, hopefully just one day, I'm going to be fitting lighting to my Hornby 101 DMU. Some of you who've watched back on my older videos might recognise this DMU from a DCC fitting tutorial I did quite a few years ago. It's a nice runner, and I thought, well, one thing it's missing is lights, so I thought it was about time we got some. So I went to my local rail shop, which is Rails now, got some of these DCC concepts, focus camera, nano LEDs, the red and white ones, the pre-wired, so yeah, I know a lot smaller than I thought they were going to be, so I'm going to have a go at fitting those. Also got all the various paraphernalia, so live axles for the rear coaches, heat shrink, thin gauge wire DCC concepts do, and then I've got a Rails decoder which I think I'm going to put this in the front coach. Might put in, I'm not sure yet because there's already a decoder on board, but it's a Hornby basic one, so I might put this in the front one. I'll see how I feel. And then from layouts for you, I've also got various other bits, so reel of LED lighting and these little miniature plugs and sockets, because I don't fancy putting 3 decoders on this thing, so these are mostly for connecting the rear coach to the front one. It might be, I would run the entire thing off one decoder, but it's going to be a bit of the current draw on the LED strips is going to be a bit high for one decoder for the whole coach, so thought I'd go with 2, one in the back, one in the front. It also means if I have no connections between these two, I can take the loco section off, change motor CVs or anything like that, without having to worry about disconnecting these from between the coaches. So yeah, that's sort of plan. So I'm going to start by getting the body off, and then I'll be back and we'll have a go at fitting all this stuff. See you in a sec. Okay, so I've got the body off. That's fairly easy. It's just with plastic clips down the side, and I've also taken out the seating area because I'm going to run the wires down up and down the body. There's plenty of space underneath for that. Thankfully this decoder is DCC ready. It's a little bit easier because I've already got a socket back here. Come to focus. So I've already got an 8-pin socket back here. So the plan is I'm going to solder the various wires that I'm going to need into the socket, onto the little tabs on the outside, run the wires down this end, so I've got them all ready. And the cables for lights on the roof, I'll run up the back using one of the little mini 2-pin connectors I can't place my hands on right now. Run up to the top so I can unplug the lid if I ever need to, fairly easily. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can get the socket off, and then I'll get it all soldered up, and then I'll be back. See you in a sec. Okay, so that's the socket wired up. So I've got the white, blue and yellow wires on there, and then where the green wire would normally be, I've got the return wire for the LED strip for the roof. So that's all done. So next thing I'm going to move on to is getting the LED lights fitted into the body. So yeah, I'll be back in a second. See you in a sec. Okay, so I'm back. So I've now got the LEDs installed in the front. I've got them wired up. So I've got red, white and blue, obviously for red, white and blue. Those have been tested, and I've just put a tiny bit of hot glue at the back just to glue them in. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install the lighting along the roof, and then we'll get to wiring up at the other end and getting the wiring in. So I'll be back once I've got the lighting installed in the roof. Okay, so I've now got the wiring running underneath the bottom of the carriage. Just got the seats roughly placed back in, just to check they'll go in roughly. Got the lighting installed on the top of the coach. Now it's just time to solder it up and get all the wiring stuffed in. So I'm going to get the sections soldered up and just show you how it all looks before I put the lid back on. See you in a sec. So, I made a bit of a mistake, as I realised. I'd love for anyone to comment down below to see if they can guess what the mistake I made before I tell you. Okay, so, looking at the body, you may not notice there's no lights on the back of the coach anymore on the front. And that's because the back of the coach here mounts flush with the body down here. So without carving a massive channel out, I'd never be able to get the LEDs in. So what I've done instead is I use this as a guide, and I drilled through two holes in here so that these bits here line up with the light housings on the external. I've also stuck these down, put the bodywork on, lights in the top, it's all ready, so I'm going to put it back together and then I'll show it on the track, and then we'll move on to show it working, and then I'll move on to the other coaches. See you in a sec. Okay, so I've got the powered unit back together, I've got it on the track, track's all powered up, so I'm out in the truth. So I've also turned the lights off, which is why it looks a bit dark, just make it a bit easier to see what's going on. I'm going to go with headlights. Oh yeah, they look good. A little bit of a light bleed into the actual cab. I could probably do something about that later, it's just kind of how the LEDs are mounted, so that's fine. Let's go reverse. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so like I said, a bit of light bleed, I'll probably do something about that at a later stage, but it's working for now. So let's go back to forward and just turn the lights off, and then we go coach lighting. Well, that looks good. That is definitely a bit on the bright side. Yeah, I think I've only got a Hornby chip in here, so I'll either get a more advanced chip where I can turn down the brightness, or I'll put some resistors in series, I think, to brighten that down. But it's good. Apart from that, it just needs to be just tiny bit duller, I think. And looking at the back, there's basically no light bleeding into the motor section, so that's good. So we'll just put the headlights on as well. I see they still stand out. If I go reverse, oh, that's good. You can't really tell. There's no real, the light bleed kind of gets overshadowed by the cab lighting that's in reverse, so that looks quite good actually. Huh? Just turn it off, turn it back off. I'll just put the, yeah. Yes, that looks good. So, next job, get the other coaches apart and get their lights fitted. Yeah, so I shall be back with a bit more involved in the other coaches, so I'm going to be back with the rear trailing coach and we'll show you what we're doing there. See you in a sec. Okay, so as I said before, I was a bit more involved with the back coach as there are no pickups on those wheels, as there's no DC or DCC functionality built into this model. But as with the front driving coach, we're going to be drilling out the two holes in the front, drilling out the existing plastic, put some LEDs in there, and then coach lighting on the whole length. And then what we're also going to be doing is fitting some plug-in socket arrangement to the back. I'm going to work out where exactly we're going to put that to allow me to power the coach lighting in the middle coach, to save me having to fit another decoder. I think I've got the 4-wire ones, because I'm also planning to put a second set of pickup axles in the middle coach, just so we can kind of link them together. So you've got these 4-wire ones here, so the red and black for the power, to share power between the coaches, and then yellow and green for the function. So yeah, that's the plan with this. So I'll get this apart and then we'll go through the sort of things we're going to be doing with this. Okay, so that's been a couple of days now, so the lighting and sound might be slightly different, especially the camera position, but we're going on. So I've got the holes drilled through the chassis and for the dummy lights on there. I've also got the pickup axles fit to the back of the back coach. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the LEDs wired up and installed at the front here, and then we can move on to looking at where we're going to put the decoder, because there's no dedicated space for decoder, because in the driving coach this section here just isn't here, so the decoder just goes in there, but we'll see where we can fit that. So back in a minute. Okay, so you can see now I've got blue, red and white wires wired up, and I've got the LEDs mounted in the front, just a tiny bit of hot glue at the back just to secure them. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the decoder harness just in here. I'm going to get that wired in up the other end and have a look at getting the between coach connectors in, and once that I'll have to work out off camera where I'm going to put physically seat the decoder. Yeah, and I'll let you know where, I'll show you where I've put it once that's all done. Okay, back in a minute. Okay, so that's almost everything wired up to the harness. Might be difficult to see here, but we've got blue wire going to a set of commons, including the yellow wire that goes out. See the little plug just at the back here that goes out to the next coach. I've got the two green wires connect together, one for the decoder, one for the thing, because I'm going to have, and then I've got the purple wire is going to get connected to this plug here, which is for the ceiling. It's got a bit Bit crazy inside, but I just thought I'd show. It's still got blue, red and white coming from the front. They go to the top and they join onto the relevant function wires. So we've got front light, tail light, opposite way around to the other side, and then one function for the light inside this carriage, one function for the light next to it. I might link them together in the decoder. I thought I'd split them out, so I've got that feature. Also, it shares the load between the outputs. Yeah, so a little bit crazy. I'll get the but that's all the wiring that's going underneath the coach. So I'm going to get the seating area in next, and then we'll show you. Probably going to have to make some modifications to fit the decoder in, but I'll show you what it looks like at the end. See you in a sec. Okay, so I've got the passenger seating area back in. I've had to carve out a section of the toilet area here and a section of the floor to get the cables through so I can put the thing back in, but most of this will be obscured as it's right at the back of the carriage. Look, you'd really have to be looking to actually see that, but when you compare it to, I've got a Bachmann 121 where you can look through the window and see the decoder very plainly, so this is probably more hidden than that. I've got the plug is back here for the roof lighting, so I'll be connecting that up there. I've got my 4-pin connector here to go between the coaches there, so yeah. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to very quickly throw the roof lighting in, and then this coach is ready to go. In fact, actually, before I do that, I'm going to put it on the track and test the headlights work, so I'll see you at trackside in a minute. Okay, so I now have the motor car and the back car now both on the track. They're both currently programmed to the same address. So now if I turn it up on my phone, turn it to select the 101, go headlights. So in fact what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the light off. There you go, you can see that. So that is obviously showing white lights on the locomotive unit and then red lights on the back. Swap it over. Yep, you see we now got white lights on the back and red lights on the front. Is it working correctly? Carriage lights not affecting anything. Brilliant. So that now shows the lighting works. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the lighting fitted in the top of the car. Oh, it's going out of focus. I'll just turn the light back on. I'm going to get the lighting fitted in the top, in the roof of this unit, and then I'll get the lid back on and we can have a look at it all in one piece. Okay, see you in a minute. Cheers. Okay, so I've got the carriage lights now installed in the rear coach. I've also got the lid back on. So what I'm going to do now, the camera's focused, I'm going to turn the lights off. As before, headlights. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I had the first coach was done, as it turns out, actually quite a few months ago. So I forgot what resistor values I used for LEDs. Now, I'm pretty sure I put too high resistors in because you can see the brightness difference between the two. So I may go back in and change that. I put two 10Ks in parallel to give me 5K. And I think that was too much. So I'll probably go back in and change that, but that's fine. So you can see those are still working. The rear coach, I guess, is less important because most of the time it's going to be running forwards anyway. But yeah, there is quite a stark difference there. Not sure what's showing up on camera, but it's good, looks good enough. So as we've got front carriage lights. Now I have dimmed this down from the beginning of the video. So that's not as bright as the one. In comparison, that's the rear carriage lights. This at the moment is on function 2, but I'm going to change that to be function 3. And then if there was a middle coach, you could turn the middle coach on there. Yeah, it's looking good. So yeah, so the next bit to work on is the middle coach. Stay in focus. So yeah, so the middle coach is next. So I'll show how we get into that, and then yeah, we'll go from there. And I'm also going to show how we reprogram the functions. Something to note. Because this is a regular locomotive decoder, for programming it requires it would require a load, as if you've ever noticed it when you program your locomotive, it jerks on certain controllers, especially the one I have, the DR55 Digijax one. That's basically acknowledging the request. It's the easiest way for you to do it. to do that it has to have an actual motor to load. There isn't that on this. Now you can put a resistor in, but the problem with that is that that resistor will get hot because you put a resistor across the orange and grey cables. But the problem is that resistor gets hot. So the way around it is to just put another locomotive on the track at the same time, and then it can do the acknowledgement for you, which is fine as long as you don't mind screwing up the CVs in that locomotive. And because this is a DMU, that's not really an issue. But that is something to consider when you're doing lighting fitting on these kind of things. But anyway, I've rambled enough, so yeah, I'll get the next coach out and then we can go from there. See you in a minute. Cheers. Okay, so I've now got the middle coach apart. So based on this is the front of the coach, this is the back, based on the other ones, because I've got the toilet cubicle, which you wouldn't have right next to the other one. So this is the rear coach, this kind of goes here, toilet cubicle this end. Let's keep it around that way. So what I'm going to do is, so that the contact points are far away from the other ones, I'm going to put the pickup wheels on this end. So put them right here. If there's a particular stretch of dirty track, then it's going to kill the power, and the chances are both sets of pickups will go off. So I put it this end, it's more likely to pick it up. I may have to fit more pickup wheels as I go, but I'm just picking the two for the moment. So I'm going to put the pickup wheels in, and I'll show you. We'll run the cables down this end. The socket's going to go on this end, plug that into there, and then the wires will come up the back into the lights going that way. Just saves only having to run two wires from that direction. Okay, so I'll get the pickup wheels fitted and get the holes drilled for the wiring, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've now got the pickup axles fitted to the rear bogie. And you see the little wires coming out there, and I've also got two tiny little 1mm holes drilled in the chassis to poke those wires through. So the next thing to do will be to fit the wires, put the wires through the chassis and then fit the bogie back to the chassis. Yep, that's fine. So I'll get those fitted, and if I try and do it on camera it's going to go wrong. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so it's now fitted in and the bogie is free to swivel. So I just need to make sure I leave a little bit of slack in the wires. Yeah. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole in the frame and this end to put the plug in, and then I can run the wires down and connect them all together. So I'll be back once I've done that. Okay, so that's the wires run from one end of the passenger compartment to the other. I've also reinstalled the seating area. I did have to Dremel out a small bit of the floor here just so I could get the wires in to be able to bring them up. That's not too bad, there was no real detail in there. Not the straightest Dremel line in the world. So I've got the wires soldered up underneath to the plug. These two wires are for the coach lighting. Bogie is still free to swivel on this end. I was going to do a plug and socket for the roof if I bring the coach lid in. I'm not expecting to be in here very often. There's definitely plenty of length on those wires to go there and have the coach on its side. So I'm just going to solder those wires straight on, I think. Yeah. So I will get the lighting strip fitted in, and I'll get the coach back together, and then we'll plug it into the other locomotive, into the rear dummy car, not locomotive, and we'll test it all out on the track. Okay, see you in a minute. Okay, so that's the full DMU on the track. I've got the locomotive car just facing the wrong way at the moment, just so you can see the front of it and have it all in shot in one time. So at the moment the functions are still programmed, so the lighting in the locomotive unit will be the same function as the lighting for the middle car unit, but I'm going to show you how to change that in a bit. So yeah, so if I just turn the lights off, turn off the main light, there we go. So now if I go, camera focus, come on, there we go. So we go headlights on, we know those already worked, forward, reverse, and then I'll do the rear carriage lights first, and then we'll turn on the front, which let's turn on the back ones. So let's see if I can do this without judging the camera too much. So there you go, you can see that's all the coach lighting working together. Brilliant. Okay, so, but as you saw, if I turn off the front carriage lights, the middle carriage lights go off at the moment as well. But I want to be able to control them individually. But that's very easy to do with the decoders I've got fitted. So I'll get these hooked up. I'm just going to do a run down the track just to make sure they all run okay, and then we'll go through changing the CVs in the decoder to make the lighting less bright and also to make the functions work as I require. Okay, so I shall be back in a few minutes. Okay, so I've now got the DMU sitting on the programming track. I've got the locomotive unit and the rear coaches on, just so the locomotive can simulate the acknowledge forces so my controller doesn't get unhappy. I'm doing this through JMRI, as it'll keep a record of all the CVs without having to write them down myself, and also means because I'm going to be screwing up the decoder values in the motor coach, then I can just reset them back to what they should be. That makes this job much easier instead of having to program everything manually. So I've got an entry set up here. I've called it 101 DMU rear coach, and I've got it in with the right decoder type. So it says DCC Concepts 1, well it's a Rails of Sheffield 1, but they're made by DCC Concepts, so the decoder map's pretty much the same. So on here, I'm going to go to, first what I'm going to do is going to go to function map. These values, you can edit them, you can work out what the values are, and some of the manuals will tell you exactly what the values should be. If you want to do various things, but this doing JMRI gives you this nice tick box. So if you remember these two, this function 1, this was the middle coach light. This is the same function as the front coach, so we want that to be shifted down from 1 down to 2, and we don't want these two to come up at the same time, so I'm going to untick there and tick there. You see it's lit them up orange, that means it's detected a change. So if I do right changes on sheet, I think that's taken. My locomotive jumped off the rails. Let's see if that's worked. Oh yes, it has worked. I'm just getting myself a bit confused. So now if I just try and turn the camera around, see if I can make this somewhat smooth. Here we go. So there's the locomotive on the track. So it's a bit hard to see because the values are messed up. So if I now click what's rear coach lights come on. If I click middle, the front and middle do come on. That's because the decoder values in the front one are messed up. A seamless transition there. So now the next thing to do is I'm just going to take these off the track, and now I'm going to reset the motor coach back to its default values for that particular setting. Let's do right full sheet. There we go. So now if I reach back in, put these back on the coach, so I'm blocking the camera. Never goes well when you do it on camera. Now, if I go front coach light, middle coach light, rear coach light, and just turn all those off, and we've still got, yep, the headlights are still working as intended. There we go. There we go. So yeah, headlights still working as intended. You're not sure if you had to see that on camera. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut while I try and turn the camera around this time, so back in a sec. Okay, so we're back at JMRI. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to set both of these for green wire F1 and F2 effect. I'm going to set these to constant dim. Yeah, constant dim here, and if I wanted to set them to whether or not they'll be on in both directions, I could set that here. That's going to use this value up here, constant dimming light level. And that allows you to dim it down. So I know on the 101 on the main item unit that this is set to 4, so I'm going to set this to 4 as well. And then I'll do right changes on sheet. There we go, so that's taking it. Now this time I don't have to worry about messing up the front locomotive because these set points, these CVs won't actually edit. They won't actually mess with what that DMU is doing. So I'm just going to jump cut while I swing the camera back round, and then I can show you all the functions working as intended. Okay, back at the programming track. So now we've got front, middle and carriage. Much more reasonable. If I just turn the lights off. Train going past outside. Very appropriate. So as you can see, if the tablet behaves, there we go. Much more reasonable. Brilliant. Okay, so I'm just see if I can get the tripod set up somewhere where I can get some videos of this going around. But apart from that, that's all done for now. Something to note, it's not very noticeable on the camera, but I did have to make some further modifications to these two coaches. In future, if I do something like this, I'm definitely going to put a decoder in each car, because I've had to do some quite significant modification to the body. It's mostly detail you can't see, and this model it's an older model. I'm not planning on selling it or anything, so I'm happy to make those modifications. I actually had to take the coupling hook off, so the coach is actually being held together by the plug. Not ideal, but it works quite well. It's not pulling a 40 coach train or anything like that, so there's no real force going through that coupling. But yeah. So I'll get the tripod set up, get some video footage of it going around, and that's about it for now. So I've got plenty of other videos coming up. I've got some sound showcases I'm going to try and do, some sound locos I've got, because I've struggled to find them online myself when I was trying to buy them. Try to find some reviews and see what the sound was like, so I'm going to do some video footage of that on future videos, and got signaling coming up and plenty of other ideas. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Feel free to subscribe. And yeah, Steam and Tech out.